The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard of Windsor Castle as tourists began gathering for the famous changing of the guard ceremony. Among the crowd stood 8-year-old Emma Thompson, her small hand firmly gripping her mother's arm as they navigated through the sea of people. Emma had been born completely blind, but her world was filled with sounds, smells, and textures that most people never noticed. Today, she could hear the excited chatter of tourists speaking different languages, the clicking of camera shutters, and the distant sound of marching boots echoing off ancient stone walls. "Mummy, when will the soldiers come?" Emma asked, her face turned upward toward her mother's voice. Sarah Thompson smiled down at her daughter, adjusting Emma's pink woolen hat against the cool October breeze. "Very soon, sweetheart. Can you hear their boots? They're getting closer." Emma tilted her head, concentrating on the rhythmic sound that grew stronger with each passing moment. She had always been fascinated by stories of brave soldiers and royal guards. Her grandmother had told her countless tales about the Queen's Guard, describing their tall black hats, bright red coats, and how they stood perfectly still no matter what happened around them. The family had traveled from their small village in Yorkshire specifically for this moment. Sarah had saved for months to bring Emma to London, knowing how much her daughter loved hearing about the royal family and their traditions. It was Emma's birthday week, and this trip was her special present. As the crowd pressed forward, Emma found herself being gently guided to the front barrier. Her mother had spoken to one of the castle staff members earlier, explaining about Emma's blindness and asking if there might be a good spot where her daughter could at least hear the ceremony clearly. The staff member, a kind woman named Mrs. Peterson, who had worked at the castle for over 20 years, had been moved by Emma's excitement. She had quietly arranged for the family to have a prime position right at the front of the viewing area. "Emma, we're right at the front now," Sarah whispered. "The guards will march right past us." Emma's heart raced with excitement. She pressed her small hands against the metal barrier, feeling the cold surface warm under her touch. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, accompanied by the distinct jingle of ceremonial equipment. "Tell me what you see, Mummy," Emma requested, her voice full of wonder. Sarah looked ahead and saw them approaching. 6 members of the Queen's Guard in their full ceremonial dress. Their red tunics were immaculate, their tall bearskin caps adding to their imposing presence. Each guard carried himself with perfect military bearing, their polished black boots moving in precise synchronization. "They're coming now, darling," Sarah described softly. 6 guards in bright red coats that look like they've never been worn. Their hats are enormous and black, and they're marching in perfect time together. Their faces are serious, and they're looking straight ahead. Leading the group was Guardsman James Mitchell, a 24-year-old from Manchester, who had been serving with the Grenadier Guards for 3 years. Behind him marched Guardsman David Chen, Guardsman Michael O'Brien, Guardsman Robert Stevens, Guardsman Anthony Wilson, and Guardsman Thomas Hardy. Each man had trained for years to reach this position, and they took their ceremonial duties with utmost seriousness. As they approached the area where Emma stood, something unexpected happened. Emma, in her excitement, began to clap softly and called out in her clear, innocent voice, "Thank you for protecting the Queen." The words carried clearly through the morning air. Several tourists chuckled at the sweet sentiment, but the guards maintained their stoic expressions and continued their measured pace. However, as they drew closer to where Emma stood, Guardsman Mitchell caught sight of her at the barrier. He noticed immediately that her eyes didn't track their movement, and he saw the white cane folded beside her. In that instant, he understood that this little girl was experiencing the ceremony in a completely different way than everyone else around her. Emma continued to listen intently to their approach. As they passed directly in front of her, she called out again, "I can hear how brave you are." This time, something stirred in the hearts of the guards. These were men trained to remain motionless and expressionless regardless of circumstances. They had stood silent through rain, snow, tourists trying to make them laugh, and even the occasional protest. But there was something about this child's pure admiration and the fact that she was experiencing their ceremony through sound alone that touched them deeply. Guardsman Mitchell, still maintaining his forward gaze, made a decision that would break protocol but create a moment of magic. As they continued their march past Emma's position, he began to deliberately emphasize the rhythm of his steps, making them slightly more pronounced so Emma could better hear the precision of their movement. The other guards, sensing their leader's subtle change, followed suit. Without breaking formation or changing their facial expressions, they created a more distinct marching rhythm just for the little girl who couldn't see them but was listening to every step. Emma's face lit up with joy. "Mummy, they're marching louder! They know I'm listening!" Sarah felt tears well up in her eyes as she realized what the guards were doing. They were still maintaining their ceremonial dignity, but they had found a way to acknowledge her daughter's presence without officially breaking character. The guards continued past, but Emma's excitement was infectious. Other tourists began to notice the little girl's enthusiasm, and word began to spread through the crowd about the blind child who was so excited to hear the guards. Mrs. Peterson, the castle staff member who had helped position Emma at the front, had been watching the interaction from a distance. She was moved by both Emma's genuine excitement and the guards' subtle acknowledgement of the child. She made a quick decision and approached the family. "Mrs. Thompson," she said quietly, "would Emma like to stay for a special surprise? The ceremony isn't quite finished yet." Sarah looked puzzled but nodded. Emma, still glowing from the experience of hearing the guards march past, eagerly agreed to wait. What none of them knew was that Mrs. Peterson had quickly radioed to the guard commander about the special little visitor. The commander, a veteran soldier named Captain William Roberts, had served for over 15 years and had seen many touching moments during his time, but something about the report of the blind child's enthusiasm moved him. As the main ceremony concluded and the crowds began to disperse, Emma remained at the barrier with her mother, wondering what the surprise might be. She could hear the sounds of people leaving, cameras clicking less frequently, and general conversation dying down. "What's happening now, Mummy?" Emma asked. "I'm not sure, sweetheart. Mrs. Peterson asked us to wait for something special." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Captain Roberts was having a quiet conversation with Guardsman Mitchell and his team. What they were considering was highly unusual and required careful thought. The Queen's Guard had strict protocols, and breaking character was generally forbidden. However, there were rare occasions when human compassion could take precedence, and this seemed like one of those moments. "Sir," Guardsman Mitchell said to his captain, "that little girl, she was listening to us so carefully. She called out to thank us for protecting the Queen. I've never heard anything so sincere." Captain Roberts nodded thoughtfully. He had been watching from his position and had seen the guard's subtle response to Emma's presence. "I saw what you did out there, Mitchell. The way you all emphasized your steps for her. It was well done, respectful but caring." The other guards nodded in agreement. Guardsman Chen spoke up. "She couldn't see us, sir, but she appreciated us in a way that was different, pure." Captain Roberts made his decision. "All right, men. We're going to do something special, but it must be done with complete dignity and respect for both our position and for this child. Follow my lead." As Emma waited with growing curiosity, she heard new footsteps approaching, but these were different from the marching she had heard before. These steps were more relaxed, though still measured and purposeful. Emma turned her head toward the sound of approaching footsteps, her sensitive hearing picking up details that others might miss. These steps were different from the ceremonial marching she had heard earlier. They were more relaxed, but still carried the weight of military precision. "Emma," Mrs. Peterson said gently, "I'd like you to meet someone very special." Captain Roberts approached the barrier where Emma stood with her mother. He had removed his ceremonial helmet and held it respectfully under his arm. His voice was warm, but carried the authority of his years of service. "Good morning, Emma. I'm Captain Roberts. I hear you've been enjoying our ceremony today." Emma's eyes widened with surprise and excitement. She had never expected to actually speak with one of the guards. "Oh, hello, sir. Yes, I loved hearing you march. You all sounded so strong and brave." The captain smiled, something that would have surprised many tourists who had only seen his stern, ceremonial expression. "Thank you, Emma. That means a great deal to us. Mrs. Peterson tells me that you traveled quite far to be here today." "Yes, sir. We came from Yorkshire. It's my birthday week, and Mummy brought me here because I love stories about the Queen and her guards. My grandmother tells me stories about how you protect the royal family." Sarah Thompson watched this interaction with amazement. She had never imagined that her daughter would have the opportunity to actually speak with one of the Queen's guard, let alone the captain himself. "Well, Emma," Captain Roberts continued, "since it's your birthday week, my guards and I would like to do something special for you. Would you like to meet them properly?" Emma's face lit up with pure joy. "Really? I can meet the guards?" "Yes, indeed. But first, I need to explain something important to you. Do you understand why we usually stand very still and don't speak during the ceremony?" Emma nodded seriously. "Because you're on duty protecting the Queen, and you have to be very professional." "Exactly right. You understand perfectly. What we're about to do is very special and doesn't happen often. We want to show you respect for the way you appreciated our service today." Captain Roberts then turned and gestured to his men. One by one, the 6 guards who had marched past Emma earlier approached the barrier. They had also removed their ceremonial helmets and carried them respectfully at their sides. Guardsman Mitchell stepped forward first. "Hello, Emma. I'm James. I was leading the group when we marched past you earlier." Emma reached out her hand, and James gently shook it. His hands were strong and calloused from years of military training, but his grip was gentle and careful. "I heard you walking at the front," Emma said excitedly. "Your steps sounded the most confident." James smiled broadly. "Thank you, Emma. I heard what you said about us being brave. That made all of us feel very proud." One by one, each guard introduced himself. David Chen told Emma about how he had joined the Guards to serve his country. Michael O'Brien, who had a thick Irish accent, made Emma giggle when he told her about learning to march in perfect rhythm. Robert Stevens shared that he had a younger sister about Emma's age back home. Anthony Wilson told her about the history of their uniforms. Thomas Hardy, the youngest of the group, admitted that Emma's enthusiasm had made his day special. Each guard took time to shake Emma's hand and speak with her personally. They were amazed by her thoughtful questions and her genuine interest in their duties. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said to the group. "What does it feel like to wear those big hats?" The guards chuckled. Guardsman Chen answered, "They're called bearskin caps, Emma, and they're quite heavy. They're made from real bear fur, and they're very warm. Sometimes on hot days it can be quite challenging to wear them for long periods. And they're much taller than you might imagine," added Guardsman O'Brien. "They make us all about a foot taller." Emma reached up with her hands, trying to imagine the height they described. "That must make you look very impressive." "That's the idea," Captain Roberts said. "The uniform is designed to make us look imposing and worthy of protecting the royal family." Sarah Thompson, who had been quietly watching this extraordinary interaction, spoke up. "Emma, would you like to ask the guards anything else?" Emma thought for a moment, then asked the question that had been on her mind all morning. "Do you ever get scared when you're protecting the Queen?" The guards exchanged glances, touched by the sincerity of her question. Guardsman Stevens answered thoughtfully, "Sometimes we might feel nervous about doing our job perfectly, Emma, but we train so hard that we feel confident we can handle whatever comes our way. And knowing that people like you appreciate what we do makes us feel brave." Captain Roberts then said, "Emma, we have one more surprise for you. Would you like to feel what our ceremonial uniform is like?" Emma's mother gasped softly. This was beyond anything she could have imagined. "Is that really okay?" Emma asked, hardly daring to believe it. "Absolutely," the captain replied. "But we'll need to do it carefully and respectfully." Guardsman Mitchell crouched down to Emma's level. "Emma, I'm going to let you touch my jacket so you can feel the texture and the buttons. These red tunics are made of very fine wool, and the buttons are specially made for the Queen's Guard." Emma reached out carefully, and James guided her hands to feel the thick, soft wool of his tunic. She traced the ornate buttons with her fingertips, marveling at their intricate design. "It feels so smooth and important," Emma said in wonder, "and the buttons are so detailed." "Each button has the royal crest on it," James explained. "They're made specially for us." Captain Roberts then knelt beside them. "Emma, would you like to hold one of our helmets? They're quite heavy, so I'll help support it." Emma nodded eagerly. The captain carefully placed the bearskin cap in her hands, keeping his own hands underneath to support the weight. Emma's face showed pure amazement as she felt the thick, soft fur. "It's so fluffy and warm," she said. "But you're right, it's very heavy. How do you keep your head straight with these on?" "Lots of practice," laughed Guardsman Wilson. "When we first start training, our necks get quite sore." Emma giggled at this admission. "I bet you all looked funny when you were learning." "Oh, we definitely did," admitted Guardsman Hardy. "I fell over more than once when I was first learning to march in formation while wearing all the equipment." The interaction continued for several more minutes, with Emma asking questions about their training, their daily duties, and their lives as guards. Each man answered her questions with patience and genuine warmth, clearly moved by her enthusiasm and respect. Mrs. Peterson, who had been documenting this special moment with her camera, with Sarah's permission, approached the group. "Emma, the guards have one final surprise for you." Captain Roberts stood up. "Emma, we rarely do this, but we'd like to perform a special salute just for you. It's our way of showing respect for your appreciation of our service." Emma clapped her hands together in excitement. "Really? A special salute just for me?" "Just for you," confirmed the captain. "When we give this salute, we want you to know that we're honoring you for understanding what service means, even though you're still young." The 6 guards and their captain formed a line in front of Emma. On Captain Roberts's command, they came to attention with perfect synchronization. Then, in unison, they performed a precise military salute, holding the position for several seconds in complete silence. Emma stood very still, sensing the solemnity and honor of the moment even though she couldn't see it. The tourists who had remained nearby fell silent, many wiping away tears as they witnessed this extraordinary display of respect between the guards and the young girl. When the guards finished their salute and returned to attention, Emma said softly, "Thank you. That felt very special and important." Captain Roberts spoke for his men. "Emma, you have shown us today what it means to truly appreciate service. You listened with your heart, and you thanked us with sincerity. That is a gift that we will all remember." As the special moment drew to a close, Captain Roberts had one more idea. He looked at his men and then at Emma, who was still glowing with excitement from the experience. "Emma," he said thoughtfully, "I want to ask you something. Would you like to help us with a very important duty?" Emma's head tilted with curiosity. "Help you? What could I do to help the Queen's Guard?" "Well," the captain explained, Part of our job is to make sure that visitors like you have a good experience when they come to see us. You've shown us today how someone can appreciate what we do without even seeing us. Would you be willing to give us some advice? Emma considered this seriously. What kind of advice? Tell us what we could do to make the ceremony better for other visitors who might not be able to see, like you. You notice things about our marching and our presence that other people might miss? Emma's face grew thoughtful as she considered the captain's request. This was the first time an adult had asked her opinion about something so important, and she wanted to give a good answer. Well, she began carefully, when you marched past me, you made your steps louder so I could hear the rhythm better. That was wonderful. Maybe you could always do that when you notice someone listening carefully like I was. The guards nodded, genuinely interested in her perspective. Guardsman Chen said, "That's an excellent suggestion, Emma. What else did you notice? Your uniforms make different sounds when you move. I could hear the jingle of your equipment and the swish of your tunics. Those sounds tell a story about how important your job is. Maybe you could tell people about those sounds so they know what to listen for." Captain Roberts was impressed by Emma's insight. "Those are very thoughtful observations, Emma. You've helped us understand our ceremony from a completely new perspective." Sarah Thompson, who had been listening to this exchange with growing pride, spoke up. "Emma has always been very good at noticing things that others miss. She's taught our whole family to listen more carefully to the world around us." Mrs. Peterson stepped forward with a smile. "Emma, because you've been such a special visitor today, we have something for you to take home." She handed Emma a small box. Inside was an official Queen's Guard pin, the kind usually reserved for special occasions and honored guests. Emma felt the pin carefully, tracing the raised design with her fingertips. "What does it look like?" she asked. Guardsman Mitchell described it for her. "It's shaped like a crown, Emma, with the royal crest in the center. It's gold-colored, and it has tiny details that show you're a friend of the Queen's Guard." "I can wear this?" Emma asked in amazement. "Absolutely," Captain Roberts confirmed. "That pin means you're an honorary friend of the Queen's Guard. Whenever you wear it, remember that you helped us become better at our job." Emma carefully held the pin against her coat. "Mummy, can you help me put it on?" Sarah pinned the badge to Emma's jacket with trembling hands, overwhelmed by the kindness these men had shown her daughter. But the surprises weren't over yet. Captain Roberts had made one more decision during their conversation. "Emma," he said, "I want to invite you and your mother to something very special. Tomorrow morning we have a private practice session before the public ceremony. Would you like to come and listen to us prepare? You could hear us practice our marching and maybe even help us make sure we sound our best." Emma's mouth dropped open in shock. "You mean I could come back tomorrow and help you practice?" "If your mother agrees," the captain confirmed. "You've shown us today that you have an excellent ear for what we do. Your feedback could be very valuable." Sarah looked at Captain Roberts with gratitude. "That's incredibly generous of you. Yes, if Emma would like to go, we'd be honored." "Oh, yes, please," Emma exclaimed. "I would love to help you practice." Guardsman O'Brien grinned. "Just promise us you'll tell us if we're not marching in time together." "Emma, your ears are better than ours." Emma giggled. "I promise I'll listen very carefully and give you my best advice." As the time came for the guards to return to their duties, each man took a moment to say a personal goodbye to Emma. They had all been genuinely touched by her enthusiasm and respect, and several admitted later that meeting her had reminded them why they were proud to serve. "Emma," Guardsman Stevens said, "I'm going to write to my little sister about meeting you. She's going to be so excited to hear about how brave and smart you are. And I'm going to remember what you taught us about listening carefully," added Guardsman Wilson. "You've made me a better guard." Captain Roberts shook hands with both Emma and her mother. "Mrs. Thompson, you should be very proud of Emma. She has shown wisdom and grace that many adults could learn from." As the guards prepared to leave, Emma called out to them one more time. "Thank you for being so kind to me. I'll never forget this day, and I'll always remember how special you made me feel." The guards stopped and turned back to her. Captain Roberts spoke for all of them. "Emma, thank you for reminding us why we do what we do. You've given us a gift today by showing us our ceremony through your eyes and ears. We'll never forget you either." As the guards walked away, Emma stood at the barrier with her mother, still wearing her new pin and clutching the experience in her memory. The other tourists who had witnessed the entire interaction began approaching the family, many with tears in their eyes. An elderly man from Canada said to Sarah, "Ma'am, I've seen the changing of the guard dozens of times, but I've never seen anything as beautiful as what just happened here." A young couple from Germany asked if they could take a photo with Emma, saying she had made their visit to London unforgettable. Mrs. Peterson remained with the family as the crowd gradually dispersed. "Emma," she said, "in my 20 years working here, I've never seen the guards break protocol like that. You must have made quite an impression on them." Emma beamed. "They made quite an impression on me, too. I thought they were just soldiers, but they're also very kind people." As they prepared to leave the castle, Sarah realized that this experience had been about much more than just seeing a ceremony. Emma had been recognized and respected for who she was, not pitied for what she couldn't see. The guards had seen past her blindness to appreciate her genuine spirit and enthusiasm. "Mummy," Emma said as they walked toward the castle exit, "can we come back tomorrow for the practice session?" "Of course, sweetheart. We wouldn't miss it for the world." That evening, back at their hotel, Emma called her grandmother to tell her about the day. As she described every detail of meeting the guards, touching their uniforms, and receiving the special pin, her grandmother listened with amazement. "Emma, dear," her grandmother said, "it sounds like those guards saw something very special in you today." "I think they did, Grandmama. But they showed me something special, too. They showed me that being strong and brave also means being kind and caring about other people." The next morning, Emma and her mother returned to Windsor Castle for the private practice session. True to their word, Captain Roberts and his guards welcomed Emma warmly and actually incorporated her feedback into their preparation. They discovered that Emma had an exceptional ability to detect when their marching rhythm was even slightly off, and she helped them perfect their synchronization before the public ceremony. The guards joked that they should hire her as their official listening consultant. When it came time for the family to return to Yorkshire, each of the guards had signed a special card for Emma, thanking her for her help and friendship. Captain Roberts had also arranged for her to receive an official letter from the castle, acknowledging her visit and her contribution to improving their ceremonies. But perhaps the most meaningful part of the experience was the lasting friendship that developed. Emma and her family began corresponding regularly with several of the guards, and they made annual trips to London to visit their friends at Windsor Castle. The guards, for their part, never forgot the lesson Emma taught them about service and appreciation. They became more aware of visitors who might be experiencing their ceremony differently, and they found small ways to make the experience special for children, elderly visitors, and anyone who showed genuine appreciation for their work. Emma's story spread through the regiment, and it became part of their informal tradition to watch for visitors who, like Emma, might benefit from a small gesture of recognition and kindness. The guards learned that sometimes the most meaningful moments of their service came not from the grand ceremonies, but from the personal connections they made with people who truly understood the importance of their work. Years later, when Emma was older, she would often tell people about the day the Queen's Guard broke character for her. She would explain that she learned something important that day about respect, service, and the difference between following rules and understanding the spirit behind those rules. The guards had shown her that true strength includes compassion, that real authority includes humility, and that the highest form of duty is recognizing and honoring the humanity in others. For Emma, the experience became a foundation for how she approached her own life. She learned to listen carefully, to show genuine appreciation for others' efforts, and to understand that everyone has something valuable to contribute, regardless of their limitations. And somewhere in the archives of Windsor Castle, there is still a note in Captain Roberts' file about the day his unit broke protocol to honor a blind child who taught them that service is not just about following orders, but about touching lives and creating moments of magic in an often difficult world. The story of Emma and the Queen's Guard became a reminder that sometimes the most important rules are the unwritten ones about kindness, respect, and the courage to do what is right, even when it means stepping outside normal procedures. It was a day when military discipline met childlike wonder, when protocol met compassion, and when a little girl who couldn't see helped grown men see their duty more clearly than ever before.